we won't have to use these.
All right, welcome to the October board meeting. We'll start tonight with a prayer.
If you'd like to join me, please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful fall day and the week that we've had off for rest and rejuvenation. And thank you for everyone here this evening. We're grateful for you all being here. Be with us this evening as we conduct the business for our schools and watch over us as we go home this evening. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we will officially call this meeting in order. Welcome to this brand new looking building, or a brand new room for us. It looks beautiful in here.
Yeah, it looks great. Hopefully everybody can hear us okay tonight. All right.
We'll start today off with recognition.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the space again. We're going to start with our guiding principles. We always start with individual student growth, and then tonight we will move to transition. To collaboration. We have some celebrations in that area as well. Individual student growth. We will start with C9. C9, Central 9 Students of the Month for the month of September. So congratulations to our September Central 9 Students of the Month. Richard Scott, is Richard here? Richard, come forward. Congratulations. And auto service.
Congratulations.
And Bryson Bergman. Is Bryson here this evening? Bryson is the Student of the Month in construction trades, so please give him a round of applause as well. Congratulations.
Oh, you don't get to leave that quickly. I know. Actually, just talk a little bit about your program, what you're doing, and what you hope to do after graduation.
Well, right now we're doing the electrical side, so more of like the lighting and like your batteries and stuff. Last year we did basic maintenance, and then after I graduate, I'll go to Ivy Tech and do the GM ASET program. So I'll be GM certified after I graduate college.
Well, that's great. Well, we got to get a picture here. Anyone with you tonight?
My mom.
All right. All right, so we'll get a picture between us, and here's our paparazzi right there. Congratulations.
Excellent work. The girls golf team, our high school girls golf team, if you could go ahead and come forward, ladies, that would be fantastic. You can stand up here by Dr. Clendenning. If our coaches are with us this evening, if they could also come forward. The Franklin girls golf team placed 5th at the 2024 IHSAA state tournament.
This is right.
This 5th place finish is the program's 8th top 5 finish at the state tournament. The Lady Cubs had a 2-day total of 664 to finish the competition behind 4 teams ranked ahead of them in the last poll of the season. Junior Lexi Ray, Lexi, step forward, please. Junior Lexi Ray was the top performer as she finished tied for 12th. Reese Phillips, Reese, please step forward. Reese was tied for 27th. Addie Bright. Tied for 39th. Cassidy Rucker. Tied for 72nd. And Mia Hart, tied for 94th. Congratulations to Coach Morse, Coach Bishop, and all of the girls for a fantastic season. Please give our state competitors a round of applause.
Reese, you get to be the senior. You're going to get to talk for everybody, okay? Talk a little bit about your season. You also made history, correct? Because wasn't your mom on the state qualifying team, and you were also on the state qualifying team? So that's a pretty cool experience. So talk about your season for a little bit.
So I think our first win of the season was the Franklin Invite, and I feel like that kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. We ended up winning the conference championships, the Franklin Central Invite, and then we followed it up with a bang, going into state, winning sectionals and regionals. I feel like it was a team effort throughout the year. Each of us kind of had our moments where it counted, and we all participated to be able to win each tournament that we did by throwing in low scores.
Well, it's pretty cool at the state championship, seeing you guys tee off on number 1 and having your names called, and that was pretty exciting. So congratulations for a great year, and we want to get one picture. Do you have anybody with you tonight?
My mom, Julie, and my dad, John.
How about, here, we'll start, pass the mic. Introduce anyone's with you tonight.
My dad, Rob, is here. My second mom, Michelle Bright, and my second dad, Jeff. My parents, Jeff and Michelle, are here.
My parents, Mike and Alicia, are here.
All right.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations, ladies.
Excellent work. Congratulations to families, coaches. We know it takes a team for that level of excellence. So nice job, everybody. Now moving on from individual student growth to collaboration. IASP, Mrs. Stephanie Dunn. Mrs. Dunn, please come forward. Mrs. Stephanie Dunn is a first and second grade teacher and the Math Bowl and Science Bowl coach at Creekside Elementary. She was named a finalist for the Indiana Association of School Principals Indiana Academic Coach of the Year for 23-24 at the elementary level. We will learn next month if she is chosen for this honor as the overall winner, but to us, she's already a winner. Congratulations, Mrs. Dunn.
I just wanted to say thank you again. We work so hard in Science Bowl and Math Bowl, and I love coaching them. I love giving those kids the opportunity to do something outside of the traditional classroom, and I'm really flattered. It's an honor, so thank you.
Did anybody bring you today?
My husband, Joe.
Okay,
Yes, he did.
All right.
Very excited
All right.
about it.
Yeah. Oh, no, paparazzi, we got it.
Mr. Tony Daly, please come forward. Please do. Both of you, please come forward. We want to gratefully acknowledge Tony and his team, yes, and Heather. Tony is the president of Industrial Controls and Automation Incorporated. His support for our robotics team at our middle school and high school level through the last year and into this year has been critical for us. We could not have pulled the teams together the way we did this past year. So we want to thank them and their team for their support. So please join me in thanking the Daly family and their team.
I also just want to say thank you for all the efforts. Not only do they help Franklin, but they've also helped other school districts in the robotics programming. And we need partners in public school to make a difference for kids. And it really is something that we have partners like Tony and Heather that will come alongside us. So I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to our kids. It means a lot to our community. So we appreciate all you do for us. And we also appreciate your daughter being our teacher with us. Yeah. Here, we got to get a picture, though. The pencils. Okay, congratulations. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for our recognition this evening. You are welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or you may exit through the rear. Have a good night, everyone.
Where's everybody going? The excitement's just starting. All right, we'll move ahead with our consent agenda. So any public comments for our consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none. Turn over to you, Dr. Pendleton.
Yes, just one I'd like to highlight in the personnel report. We want to thank Drew Murray for his time serving as our Director of Transportation. And on the agenda tonight, we are asking for approval for Joe Hoagland to be the next director. If approved tonight, Joe will start on Thursday with us in that process. So we're excited to have Joe, who's a longtime community member, come alongside us and help in transportation.
Any other items under consent agenda for discussion, questions?
I'll move for approval.
Move first.
I'll second.
First and second, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we're already a lot quicker than last meeting. Moving on to superintendent reports.
Can you hear me okay? No. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. All right, so third quarter financials. Your first report shows our ECA accounts for each of the buildings. As you can see, they brought in more than they've spent, so it looks like we're in good shape. There'll be more expenditures throughout the school year, so I would expect those balance on hand numbers to drop a little bit. But they do a great job of keeping track of everything, so no worries. Next colorful spreadsheet shows on the left side is your cash flow results for both this year and the previous year as a comparison. Couple of observations. We had a decrease in starting balance from 23 versus 24 of 1.3 million. We had an increase in revenue for education operations and referendum of 1.9 million, but only increased expenditures by about 954,000. So our fund balance for all funds has increased by 378,000, and the increase as of 9/30 for fund balance in education operations and referendum has increased by a little less than $250,000. So we are in good shape on cash flow. In fact, we're about $400,000 more than the same time last year. On the right side, those are budget results. So on the top block is for 24. The bottom is a comparison to 23. I do want to point out, if you look at percentage spent, we're 75% through the calendar year. And in the ed fund, we're at 75% spent, operations 74, and referendum 75. So that's pretty much textbook budgeting right there. Now, it's going to change before the end of the year. So just keep that snapshot in your mind. Our total budget did decrease from 23 to 24 by a little over $500,000. Our operations fund spending increased by about $500,000. And education fund is at an increased rate of $1.3 million. And that is pay raises and carrying some of those positions over from ESSER. So we're in good shape. Any questions on that one? All right, and then the second large spreadsheet shows your financial statements. On the left side is 24 and the right side is 23. I've made notes on those categories where we've exceeded the 75% mark and offered some explanation to that. Reading cadre, I think I've mentioned this before, was not in our original budget, so that remediation category is a little ahead. Earlywood and C9 payments, Obviously, we've already expended all of the Earlywood obligations, so that accelerated spending in that category. Stipends for support staff were not in the original budget, and so on. So I won't read all of those to you. But we're at 68% spent. And again, that breaks that down: education fund, referendum fund, debt service and operations at the bottom. I did want to point out that if you go down to the cash balances at the bottom, textbook rental shows a negative balance of about $1 million. And that's where, you know, we adopt a textbook, we divide it over 6 years and recover expenses over that period of time. Well, as you know, the governor has changed everything, so there's no cost to parents. So we've been instructed by DOE that we need to cover that remaining balance before the end of this year. We have received a payment of about $500,000 from Earlywood, and those were funds that were still in our name in the education operations funds. So I spoke with Dr. Clendenning about using that money to cover half of this. But the board will need to decide in the next couple of meetings how we satisfy the rest of it. We can use fund balance, we can use rainy day. I'll come to the next meeting with what options that you have for that. But that will be a line item in the ed fund from now on, so that's why it has to be zeroed out before the end of the year.
What will be the amount roughly like next year, once this is zeroed out?
We have a lot of questions around that,
Okay.
that DOE has not been able to answer yet. Because again, we normally, if we adopt, we kind of amortize that over 6 years.
Right.
So does that mean we have to take the full hit in 1 year? And I don't think those questions have been answered yet. We do have some categories that we have reduced the spending rate, 23 compared to 24. A lot of those are at the top where there are academic programming. So there are some bright spots in this. Any questions I can answer?
Back to the textbook adoption process again. We're still anticipating about $151 per kid
We are.
to come into our budget in '25. That's also going to be negotiated at the state, once again, when they redo the budget. I think the hope is that we'll all be able to live inside of that $151 per kid. But as we look at questions from cost of computers and textbooks, does that really meet what we need to do?
Right.
And so I think there's a lot of questions that we need to ask at the state level. And I know we're not the only ones that are feeling this pain of all of a sudden we have to make a decision on our finance that when we actually purchased the textbooks, we had a plan that already would pay them off. So Ms. Gross has done a great job of getting us to the spot. You can see that in our budget, but this is one that definitely hangs over us on how are we going to move forward. An example of that is tonight in the discussion, we're going to have Dr. Warland talk about 12th grade textbooks and how do we pay for those? Because the teachers change and different things change. We met with President Winton from IU 3 Fridays ago, and Tina brought this question up to them on textbooks because, you know, college textbooks range anywhere from $300 to $450, $500. And we're expected to have dual credits through the ICC program. And so how do we pay for those textbooks? And so Tina did a wonderful job bringing it up to the president of Indiana University in that question. And so she's aware of it. She understands a little bit. I don't know if she fully understood our pain, but she did understand that that's something that we're talking about.
So she didn't have an answer that evening.
No, but I think Brooke would add that the faculty at IU and the other colleges understand our pain and have been working with us to maybe not go to the 4th edition because of a few word changes. So we're getting some cooperation there.
I know Brooke pushed back on one already this year, and we were able to not purchase that book. And so those are the things we're going to continue to look at. But Governor Holcomb still wants us to pay for those. I mean, that's his thought of it's a free and appropriate public education, and the concept is we're paying for textbooks.
Any questions? All right, move on to the ag building update.
Couple minutes just to keep you updated on where we are with the ag building. We've talked about it a couple times, I think, in the past at this meeting. At this time, we met a few months ago, talked about where we were with the curriculum with Dr. Worland and the group and Mr. Ahaus. Those discussions have continued, and they're finishing those up. We've also talked about the site where we're going to have the building, and I know the group has been working through that. And now to our next steps, we're going to try and meet here soon since they are finished with the curriculum piece, try to get those meetings started up hopefully in November to look at our design, and then also work with Schmidt, the architecture group for our district, on that process of the build and the design in conjunction with our corporation and the ag group. So just wanted to make sure you guys were updated on that and where we are in that process. Thank you.
Also, just a couple things. The Alumni Association did receive a big grant, a $100,000 grant, so thank you, Kent, for putting that together and what you were doing, and that'll also help offset. The plan right now is to hopefully start building in the spring, and then the kids would be able to use the facility in the 25-26 school year. So as we're desperately close to being able to see this come to fruition. So we want to thank the ag and the alumni group. They put a lot of fundraising efforts in behind this, and now we're really close. And so I think over the next couple of months, you'll get to see the schematics, you'll get to see the official site location. I think right now we're looking at kind of on the east end of the property on the high school, and we're looking at doing some different things with that as well. And I know there's some questions about that, but that's where we're looking, and I think we're really close. So I just want to thank the alumni group as well as the ag department and Mr. Ahaus for their work here. And I know that Dr. Worland and Mr. Betts did a lot behind the scenes as well, pulling everything together to say we're ready for this thing.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks.
So I just wanted to highlight that in the next couple months, the state is going to make a significant decision on the high school diploma. Mr. Ahaus and his team have already been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes with not knowing the real blueprint of the new high school diploma. So tonight, we're just coming to everyone with really information. The information is, parents, please look over this plan. If you have questions about it, you need to submit to the Department of Education about the new diploma. And on the handout that I provided, you'll see on the left-hand side the current Core 40 as we know it. On the right-hand side, you'll see what Indiana is proposing. This is 2.0 of the proposal. We're going to see 3.0 probably coming up in November. We still have time to have conversations about this. I think that some of the concerns that we've had have been expressed. What do you do with some of the electives? How far do you push them down to the middle school? I know that coming up in November, the two principals are meeting to have that early conversation about what does it look like in the scheduling. And the reason we're doing it at the middle school level for this 8th grade class, they are the first class affected by this. The class of 2029 will have a new diploma. If schools would choose, they could go all the way up to the class of 26 would actually be the first class that could get this new diploma. No longer will we have an honors diploma with 48 credits. What you're going to have are seals, kind of like badges, in the honors area, as well as an honors plus looking at the employability side. So tonight we're just sharing over the next 2 months. Mr. Ahaus and I will be traveling in the community, talking to different groups, talking to parents, hosting meetings. Once we better know what's going on, so that everybody's informed. I don't want anybody to feel like we didn't tell them about what's going on, that there's going to be this sudden change for the 8th grade class and below. Right now, not a lot's going to have to change, I think. I do think inside of foreign language, I think that's a concern that we had early on, that it could really change the direction of foreign language. And we feel that that's a needed aspect for our kids. IU and Purdue also weighed in pretty heavily in the first iteration of this and changed it significantly, because they said originally the students wouldn't be able even to get into the IU or Purdue with the first round of this new diploma. So at the bottom of the PowerPoint, we are providing a JOT form from the state for anybody that wants to comment and provide feedback. Also, there's an in-person public hearing on Friday, November the 8th. That's the actual State Board of Education meeting. You can go present in person. I know Mr. Wagner from the high school, the assistant principal, Mr. Ahaus has given him the task to kind of watch this, monitor this, and then provide feedback. So he's been watching the last couple school board of education meetings on this topic. And then over the next 2 months, you'll continue to see this as an agenda item for us as we talk about it as well. And when we go to approve the high school bulletin and course of work for next school year, you'll probably see a few changes that Brooke will bring to you in that space. Dr. Warren, anything else?
No, I appreciate the discussion, because I think this is one of those topics that is out in the public quite a bit and a lot of misinformation. So thank you. And I do have a question, like the upcoming election, how will that alter? I assume that's going to alter potentially how this is going to look.
It could. However, this is already in state legislation that this is changing. So no matter who wins the governorship or who becomes the Secretary of Education, this is still going to go into place. One of the things I think we want to see completed is give us the blueprint by the end of the year. Because if it doesn't happen by the end of the year, what's going to happen is the General Assembly is going to go in and tell us what it's going to happen. And we won't have any voice in that. So I think Secretary Jenner is really pushing forward. Right now, Governor Holcomb would like to see this also be completed under his watch. And I think both Braun and McCormick see the need for this. So I don't think it would change a lot. The one aspect would be the General Assembly weighing in, and they would tell us what can be taught. Mr. Ahaus, anything else that I missed that you've heard that needs to be shared? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We will move on to action items. Any public comments on action items? All right. First thing up is the adoption of the 2025 budget.
Okay, this meeting will serve as the formal adoption of the 2025 budget. Nothing has changed since we held our public hearing in September. I would remind the board, though, even though we're requesting a $1.95 tax rate, we always ask for more than what we know we're going to get to maximize the levy. We're anticipating $1.37, so that should be, with all the caps and everything, that should be where we end up landing. So I'm requesting formal adoption for the 2025 budget tonight.
I'll move for approval.
A motion?
I'll second.
Second. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. Next up is 2024 maintenance bond resolutions.
Director, you can handle this one.
Sure. This item is for the board to hold a hearing on a proposed lease agreement for the construction project. And that's for the maintenance bond project, and that was presented to the public, I think at least in 2 board meetings. There have been no material changes, excuse me, to the project. And after the presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the lease rental to be paid under the lease. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the lease rental under consideration. And the notice of this hearing was published as legally required. And now I suppose we can open the public hearing. So is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on the proposed lease rental, and funding mechanism? Apparently not, so we'll close the public hearing. Thank you for the participation. As required by Indiana Code 2047-3, after a lease hearing, the Board of School Trustees must approve the lease document and authorize the school board officers to execute the lease. The lease is the agreement whereby the school corporation will levy the required property tax to pay the lease payment throughout the life of the bond issue. The lease payments will be paid to the building corporation and used by the building corporation to pay the bondholders to repay the debt on the proposed bonds. So if I could, please, I'd like to have a motion approving the execution of the lease.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
First and second, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed?
Second would be a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of the lease. Or a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed?
Okay, motion passes unanimously. The next resolution is the resolution assigning the bid contracts to the building corporation. The building corporation will be the issuer of the bonds. The bond proceeds will be held by a trustee bank. In this case, it's New York Bank Mellon, and will be used to pay the contractors for the renovation work. As a result of certain contracts, there may be a need, may need to be paid with building corporation, because the building corporation will hold the money to pay the contractors. The school corporation receives the bids and or contracts and awards the bids and or contracts under state law, but then authorizes the ability to assign those bids and or contracts to the building corporation for payment at the discretion of the board. So we need a motion to adopt a resolution assigning construction bids to the building corporation.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
First and second, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed? Motion passes.
All right, finally, we need to consider a resolution authorizing the supplement to the master continuing disclosure undertaking and the issuance of bonds. This resolution satisfies the Securities and Exchange Commission's requirement that a school corporation enter into a continuing disclosure undertaking agreement if it issues bonds to public investors, and that's the case here. The agreement requires that the school corporation agree to timely provide certain financial information and provide notice of certain material events if and when they occur. And the notice is supplied to a central repository created by the SEC to receive these notices. The type of things that would be noticed would be, say, the loss in the district of a major taxpayer, or any other event which might in some way impair the school corporation's ability to repay those bonds. This requirement's been around for some time, since the disaster that occurred in Orange County a number of years ago. So at this point, I would ask for a motion approving the supplement to the master continuing disclosure undertaking and the issuance of bonds.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, first and second, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Okay,
Motion
that
passes.
concludes these proceedings. The bonds will sell, I suppose, very soon, and with funds to be available hopefully before December 1st of this year. But these proceedings on this bond issue are now concluded.
The bond sale is actually tomorrow, and will close about mid-November, so.
Okay. All right, thank you, Roger. Last item of action items is bus routes approval.
As Mr. Betts walks up, this is a new process for us as we adopted new policies through Churchill, and Antrim. One of the things under G100 is routing, and we're asking for the board to annually approve our bus routes. So tonight, I've asked Mr. Betts, the Executive Director of Operations, to come up and talk about our route process. We also have Tracy Cox in the audience, who does a lot of behind-the-scenes work on all the routes. And we're going to ask for board approval. If you remember last meeting, Benji came up and gave a quick overview of the process, what it looks like, how we go about making decisions. Tonight, he's going to talk into more detail and then ask for your approval. So this is policy G100 for us.
Thank you. I won't introduce Tracy again. I had that down, but it's all the scenes. I would say not just behind the scenes. She's involved in all the scenes. She does everything. She is amazing. And she's here to answer the questions that I have no clue about if you ask them. So I wanted to thank Tracy for being here to help me out as well. The first slide, talking about just our routes that we have right now. We have a total of 5,784 routes, or 5,784 minutes that we run buses during a normal day. Again, that's an average based on TransFinder, and we'll talk a little more about TransFinder as we continue through this. We have 67 routes. That's in the morning and the afternoon, so double that to let us know how many we run throughout the day. But 67 in the morning, 67 in the afternoon. AM routes, we run about, our average route time is 43.2 minutes. So when we think about that board policy of sticking around 60 minutes, we're well underneath that on average. We do have some that go over, very few, and we're working towards some things to alleviate that as well, and we'll talk about that as we move forward. Our AM routes, we're running around 2,878 minutes with an average time of 43 minutes, and our PM routes, a little more, 2,906 minutes with 67 buses again, with a little over 43 minutes on average. In the morning, our shortest route runs about 18 minutes. There's two of them that run that, bus 111 and 153. Our longest, which is bus 109, and we'll talk about why that is here in just a few minutes, runs at about 100 to 108 minutes. PM, our shortest is around 12 minutes, that's bus 160, and our longest is bus 109 again at right around that 100 to 108 minutes. TransFinder puts those on the heavy side. What I found out in researching all this and working with Tracy, our GPS that we use to see when a bus leaves the lot and when it comes back, we're actually running a little better on those times. So those ones that I tell you are about 108, she would probably look at me and say they're probably more like 75 to 85 minutes. I hope she's nodding her head yes. But that is around where those would maybe be. If she's not, then we'll go a little over 85. But we try as hard as we can to get to that 1 hour mark. A couple places where we have issues, again, is Route 109. Back when the driver shortage started a few years ago, we looked at where we can combine routes, and Route 109 was the one where we combined two routes into one. So that's why it's one of our longer ones and a little heavier. We combined that because we didn't have enough drivers, and we were trying to figure out how to cover all our routes and get kids to and from school. So Route 109 was combined. Later on, we're going to talk about what we might be able to do to fix that in the near future, and hopefully we'll be able to do that and get 109 broken back out. Another one of our major issues, if you've ever driven in Franklin, every one of us probably dislikes this area, but that Johnson Avenue and Graham Road route, that's the 5-way train tracks over on the northeast side, or on the east side of town there. We always try to pick kids up on the right side. And not only try to do it, but try to do it in a safe manner. If you've ever ridden through there, you never know what someone's going to do, if they're going to turn left, right, go straight, go down the train tracks, you never know. And so that's one where we're looking at trying to do more doorstop instead of neighborhood pickup because of the traffic that's there, and they're working on how do we get that to make it a little more safer for our kids. Not that it's unsafe now, but just that traffic pattern there is a really tough one for our buses and our community to navigate. This slide, this is what you see when you pull routes from TransFinder. You can see all the stops that are up there, but I want to make sure you saw this so as you look through the document you can see. It shows you that stop one. If it says 0 students, that means we don't have anybody on there yet. And then you can see how many students we're picking up each of those spots. And then at the end in the AM, that's when we other students get off the bus, and you can see that we drop off 35 students at the school. And in the PM, it's at the top, they all get on, and then they steadily drop off as we move through the day, and you can see how long those stops take and how much time we have between them and a little bit of the route there. Our elementary routes are typically a lot shorter because they're concentrated to a smaller part of the community in our town, whereas the high school and middle school ones tend to be our longer routes because we're trying to cover more with every kid from every part of the town coming to the intermediate school, middle school, and high school. How are routes generated? We use our TransFinder software is where we start all of our route generation. We are able to put in that we want right-hand side pickups and drop-offs to the best of our ability, but we do have to go back and use the human component of it to make sure those look okay and the time's all right, and we are looking at as many right-hand drop-offs as possible. We try to make sure we stick to that 60-minute time on the bus as board policy as much as we can, and some routes due to driver shortage have gone over as we've talked about. But we try to put all that in and see if we can get that done to the best of our ability. The question was asked to me a couple times, have we used AI? Have we tried doing anything like that? We've looked at it. I don't know that we are quite there yet. I've talked to some other operations officers. They're looking into it as well. And I don't know how much it's going to help out, but I'm sure as it gets better and it gets better, more and more people use it, we're going to find better ways to use that possibly to help us out and figure it out as well to do what's best for our kids in our community. But as of now, we haven't used it too much. I did use it to generate a picture on here just to see what it would do though. So that's about the extent of it right now for us. But if it does get better, we would look at that to try and see if it can help us create some more efficient routes. And I would assume some of these software companies that do the route generation will start using that as well and include it into their software. Driver shortage. Here recently, we've worked through some things, and I want to thank the board and Dr. Clendenning and Tina on helping us present this to everyone and getting this through. We added 4 bona fide positions internally to some of our drivers we were trying to keep on. 2 of them have accepted, 2 of them are trying to work through to see how it works for their family, and they're supposed to be getting us some answers here very soon. We also added 4 external bona fide positions, and we have 3 drivers who have accepted that will be starting, I think one's November 1st, November 4th, and November 11th. With those 3 new drivers starting, that will get us pretty close to a full roster of drivers to where we won't have to have part-time drivers, just doing a morning or doing an afternoon, that a driver will be doing that entire route, and it'll help us not have to have as many changes and all the things we see all the time, and hopefully give us a more consistent staff of drivers for our transportation department. The only one we're working on is 109, and Tracy did say something to me before we got here. She's got some things to tell me. Hopefully we can get November or Route 109 fixed here, but that would be the one we're waiting, that last spot. I think trying to split some things up, do some things to make sure it's taken care of, and maybe splitting it back out as soon as we can. We also have 2 drivers that could possibly be retiring after the first semester. I'll let you know that Drew Murray did a great job recruiting people, going back into our database. I think he called on people who had applied up to 5-6 years ago to see if they were still interested and wanted to come back. And so he has some people in the pipeline that are training that could help out with some of those retirements. We have, I think, 2 potential drivers going to DOE classes in Greensburg as well to get that training to become a driver for our district. So hopefully we're getting close to that piece of fixing some of that driver shortage, and hopefully we'll continue that with our new director, working through that as he comes on, working with our transportation department. We're hearing that from a couple other places as well, that they're starting to fill out their driver rosters, and that they're even starting to get some reserve drivers on hand. So hopefully that will follow for us here very soon. I think one of the biggest things was being able to offer those bona fide positions. That was one of the things that kept coming back to us over and over, was being able to get insurance in a few more hours than the non-bona fide drivers. So I think that has been a big help in filling out our roster.
Could you define bona fide?
Yes, it's when you get insurance, when we're able to offer them insurance and be able to offer them a little more than 30 hours. We try to keep, when you become a bona fide driver, you're agreeing to stay between, go over your 30 hours and take on some extra routing. Might be a daytime route, extracurricular routes, after school, and then also you then get your insurance. You can opt into insurance for that as well. Did I miss anything on that, Tracy?
Per our agreement with South Central Insurance Trust, you have to drive 30 hours or more to get our insurance. And so we call them bona fide inside of the Affordable Care Act to separate those two.
And our entire staff is not, they're not all bona fide. We only have a certain amount of slots. I think, we're up to 35 now with the 8 total? I think it's 35. And so we're able to offer that to 35, and not all drivers want that. Not all drivers need the insurance or want that many hours or doing the extracurriculars. So that's right now seems to kind of be the sweet spot for us, to where we're able to fill out our roster of drivers.
Also, one of the requirements from the Affordable Care Act, we're not allowed to ask somebody, do you want to take our insurance in order to be a bona fide driver? So
Right.
if they agree to work above the 30 hours and they qualify for insurance, we do have several. Do you know off the top of your head how many are not taking insurance?
No.
So we have several that don't take the insurance but still drive over that, and that is fine. If for something happened and we did have bus drivers exceed that, or we would ask that, we'd be in violation of the law. So that's why we call them bona fide, but we don't ask them if they're going to take our insurance or not.
And in case you were wondering, this is the AI-generated picture of school bus driver with kids. Thank you very much.
Mr. Betts, also on the
Yeah.
second part of your presentation is where it says trip summary, are all of the routes that you're actually approving tonight.
Yes.
And so if you look through those, or if anybody has questions about those, that is the information that we're looking at. Tracy, are there any highlights or anything that we should note before we move to approve?
Any questions for Benji? We'll entertain motions to approve.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
First and second, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, congratulations. Motion passes.
Thank
you. That is it for action items. Next up is discussion. And we have, first up on the agenda, Center for Special Education Services Agreements.
Yeah, good evening. Which one of us is it? Me?
You're okay. I promise. I did the same thing. You're okay.
Okay. I'll say that again. Good evening. Over the last 3 or 4 months, I have shared with you in Friday Notes, and I think even in board meetings, that there is a shortage of specialized special education staff, SLP, school psychologists. So in front of you tonight is a client services agreement for a contract company for school psychologists. So currently we are short 2, which is causing quite a bit of tightness in that department. And so this particular company, I have vetted and looked at other contracts with other people, and I feel like they are pretty transparent and black and white about how they're charging us for evaluations. And we have also looked differently within our department about how we're doing business in terms of school psychology services, evaluating, reevaluating students, attending meetings, and so forth. And this one in particular is pretty transparent about what they're charging, and that is, you want a full evaluation for a student, here's the cost for that evaluation. It's very comprehensive. They're not nickel and diming you. You can do that. You can do some a la carte shopping with testing, but I prefer not to do that. And so that's kind of shifting the way we're looking at things within the district. Mr. Young has reviewed this contract, and it has been sent back to the company. They have made the changes that he recommended. And so next month, I will come to you and ask for approval so that we can get some help within our special ed department. What questions do you have?
Any questions? No, straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is discussion item is Paris Counseling MOU.
Yes, and that's me. I'm actually going to play off of Mrs. Scott's comment about staffing struggles. So not only is it happening in some of our special education areas, but also in mental health. So in consent agenda, you approved updates to the Bowen Center. We've been working with the Bowen Center for skills-based group therapy for some time. They are serving a minimal number of our schools, matter of fact, one, in the coming year. So as a result of that change, we would like to propose that we add Paris Counseling to our list of providers and partners in order to help fill those group skills-based therapy gaps. Very similar services, just helps us expand opportunities for students. Roger has seen all of the contracts. In Bowen, it was on the consent agenda. There was some indemnification clause language we needed to update. But again, I just want to thank our community. Without the referendum, these services would not be possible for our students. So that's Paris Consulting, or Counseling.
So previously Bowen served our whole.
They served more buildings than what they are able to serve now.
So what building do they serve now? Only?
They are just going to serve Needham.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We also do have a set dollar amount in our referendum account for these services, and students have to be referred from our counseling team or our mental health team for these services. I think I'm the next item as well for discussion. So Dr. Clendenning had mentioned English 12. So English 12 has been on the books for a long time.
Oh,
it
nice
is in
pun.
our catalog. What?
Nice pun.
Yes, sorry, I know. It has been on the books for a while, but we haven't offered it for about, 4 or 5 years maybe. It's been a few years. We've been offering some other classes. If you'll remember, we had a themes and lit class, some other things that students have been taking. The decision at the high school last year in preparation for this year was that we needed to add English 12 back to our master schedule. It was already in the catalog. As a result, we need some resources to deliver that curriculum. So we're using Springboard, which was the textbook company from College Board that we had adopted. As part of that adoption, there are supplemental novels. English 12, you'll see the standards at the bottom of this proposal that the novel the PLC has selected helps cover. I do want to remind everyone in the district, the principals hear me say this quite a bit, but this novel, K through 12, whenever we're reading a novel, we do send home to families a notice 2 weeks ahead of time so that families can do an assessment of what is appropriate for their families. This is for our seniors. It is a memoir and allows them to look at evolving perspectives, which was part of the standard they were trying to establish.
Any questions for Brooke? All right. Thank you. It looks like that brings us, well, public comments on discussion items. None? Sure? Okay. Board administrative comments. Any board comments from us? None?
None.
All right, you guys quiet.
We are.
Just a couple of things on administrative. One, just want to remind everyone that before the break, we did have the public hearing on the collective bargaining agreement. The teachers are meeting Wednesday to have a discussion and ratify, and then we'll be back here on October 31st for final board approval. 30th. October 30th.
Not Halloween.
Not Halloween. And then if approved and ratified by teachers and approved by the board, the teachers will receive their back pay and their second check in November. Also coming up will be the support staff, and I know Ms. Gross is working on that, and that'll be for the January as we move forward with some different items and support staff, higher salaries, et cetera. So I wanted to highlight that as well. And then just want to remind everybody that over the next couple courses, we'll continue to have conversations regarding to what the future looks like for our building in Earlywood. The demolition for Earlywood, it's coming down starting next couple weeks. Okay, we have approved that already, and then hopefully, then we'll see in the spring the construction starting for the preschool center and some of those things as we move forward. But there's a lot of legal things between now and then for that to happen. And lastly, we did receive our Standard & Poor update. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment on that. We received a AA+ long-term rating and an A+ underlying rating on the school's outstanding obligations. So that was the same as last time. So we're steady. So that's great news.
I have to brag on Tina because she won't brag on herself. But when we had this public hearing, and the person in Denver, there's a person, I think she was in Chicago, and then our team. When it was all said and done, our team just praised Tina because a lot of times the answers that get presented are half-baked or whatever, and Tina does such a phenomenal job that everyone's impressed. So I just want to thank her publicly. She just does all of her homework, and when we go to the conversation and the interview, we can answer every question that they have, and the result is our rating. So I want to thank her publicly for that.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. Well, we'll consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming out.